So, someone died in my Airbnb. So, I want to explain what happened in detail and what I've learned. So, I have learned a lot because I definitely made mistakes. So, let's get into what happened and what is the learning lesson out of this. I feel like with aspiring real estate investors or Airbnb hosts, this is one of your biggest fears, and this is what stops people from getting into the business because it's like this gives people anxiety even when you do have Airbnbs. You're afraid of the house burning down or someone dying, and it happening to me is something that, of course, I didn't expect, but I do want to at least share my experience so that it could, I guess, educate you guys on what the next steps are that you should take. Because I did make some mistakes and I just have never been through this before. So, yeah, I wanted to share my experience because of those reasons. And I hope that maybe I can kind of deter some of the anxiety that people do have, just because at the end of the day, everything you go through usually has a solution. And so we're going to discuss, what happened and what my next steps were. All right, so let's discuss what happened. So, my boyfriend and I'm going to say we, and when I say that, it's because my boyfriend and I, share an Airbnb in Powder Springs, Georgia. So, with the Airbnb, you know, we're both managing it, and he's communicating with one of the guests who are there, and we're doing rooms for rent. And so, if you guys are not familiar with that, it's when people are booking the private rooms inside of the home and they're sharing the main living space. So we had two people staying there at the same time when this all happened. And so the first thing we noticed is that one of the tenants were not being responsive with their pay. Like, we're trying to get their payment from them, they're not being responsive to us, and so that was concerning. This is a rental arbitrage, so we basically convinced an owner to allow us to sublease their home and use it as a for our Airbnb business. So I should say that first. So when a tenant or Airbnb guest owes you a payment and you can't get a response from them, your first initial conclusion is that, okay, they're just ignoring me, so I'm gonna have to start the eviction process. They owe me rent. You don't know what's going on, but you definitely don't assume that they died. So we were basically starting to take the next steps to potentially have to start an eviction. So the owner reached out to my boyfriend with the news that someone died in the property, and we don't even know which guest it is at this point. We don't know because there's two of them at the property at the time, so we don't even know who it is. The owner just says that the neighbor reached out to them and called the police because the neighbor smelled a very strong odor coming from the property when they were mowing their lawn. So they called the police, and the police did visit the property and then discover the dead body. And so that's what made of course the owner reach out to us about it. So at this point, we decided the next step would probably be to contact the police and call the precinct, because we don't know any details at all. We need to know which guest was it, what happened. We don't know anything, and the owner doesn't know anything either. So we call the precinct and they pretty much give us the details. So they tell us who died. They said that basically one of the guests OD'd on Oxy, and they've been deceased for a week now. And it would make sense because we weren't getting any responses for text messages. So yes, it's been a week, and that's pretty much all we know at this point. So we have to figure out the next steps from there. But that's all they were able to tell us. So my boyfriend and I have never dealt with a person who's passed away in the property, so we don't understand the severity of the situation. We're both pretty ignorant, with this. So, for some reason, we thought it was a good idea to have our cleaner go to the property and just take a look at the bedroom that they were staying in, and try to have the cleaner clean up the property. So the cleaner visited the property and they looked inside the bedroom and they said, "Oh my God, I can't clean this. I mean, there's blood all over the bed, and it smells so, like, the odor is so strong, it smells like someone who has passed away. And that's really all they could, say to describe it. So it smelled like someone passed away. And we're confused because we're like, blood on the bed. I thought this was an overdose on oxy. So we're confused and we're trying to figure out if the police are correct with the reason why the person passed away. So we're basically kind of trying to figure that out and also trying to figure out what the next steps are if the cleaner, doesn't feel comfortable. Because basically the cleaner, of course, didn't feel comfortable, which we understood. Now that we know that there's blood on the bed and there's a very strong odor, they didn't feel comfortable with moving forward with that cleaning. So we told the cleaner to, we thanked them and said, okay, thank you. We're not gonna, of course, you don't have to clean. We're gonna figure this out and we're gonna take care of it from there. So we get to the property. So me and my boyfriend decided to just visit the property ourselves to see how bad it is, in person. And the neighbors just happen to be outside. So, a boyfriend talks to them. I'm sitting in the car and he talks to them about what happened and, trying to get details as to what happened. And so the neighbors, one of them worked as an EMT, and they basically said that it was completely normal for, like the bed to have a lot of blood on it from an overdose of oxy, because we were coming up with all kind of conclusions on our own because we're just not understanding. But they basically said, yeah, that's totally normal, for the nose to bleed profusely after like a overdose on oxy. So that was a surprise to us, but yeah, they said that they could definitely smell, the smell from outside. So yeah, that was concerning to us before we went in. So before we went in, we decided to get some masks so that we can kind of not have to breathe in whatever smell. Oh, I did want to mention that the other Airbnb guest has already vacated by this time, just in case, I didn't mention that. So the guest who passed away was there by himself for a week. So before going to the property, we made sure we had our respirator masks on, and we brought like 3 ozone machines. And we really thought those ozone machines was gonna do something, y'all. We was wrong. So we brought some ozone machines, right? And we decided, you know what, we're gonna leave our masks on and we're gonna put ozone machines inside of the bedroom that the person was in. So we went inside of his bedroom and we did notice that there was a lot of blood on the bed, which was very concerning to look at. But we, put the ozone machines all up in his room. We opened up the windows and we said, okay, if we just leave these running for 24 hours and come back, then maybe we can get rid of the smell. So y'all, okay, we went back a day later, and my boyfriend was a little scared to go back in without the mask, so I volunteered to do it for us both to see if we were able to get rid of the odor that the cleaner was speaking of. Because mind you, we haven't smelled the odor at this point because we had our respirator masks on. But I went in there and I went upstairs. The bedroom is upstairs, and I wanted to see if we were able to get rid of whatever smell they were speaking of. So I went inside the property a day later. I took off my mask, and I'm like, oh, the downstairs smells great. So I think the ozone machines worked. So I start walking upstairs, and y'all, I was in the middle. I hadn't even got all the way upstairs yet, and the smell just hit me like a wall. I mean, there's really no way to describe it. I'm not gonna describe it, but it's very, very strong odor. So we were naive to think that the ozone machines were going to kill the odor, because what we're looking to do at this point is obviously to turn the house over so we can, eventually start to rent it out again. We have to get rid of this mattress. We have to get rid of the odor. So it's still a rental property at the end of the day. And y'all, I mean, I kind of wish I never took the mask off because it was pretty bad. The neighbor did tell us that we're gonna need a biohazard team to clean up the, everything, like the smell, but I don't think we were understanding the severity of the situation, and so we really thought that the ozone machines were going to do something, and they didn't at all. And ozone machines have always worked in the past with removing strong odor, so we just thought this is another one of those cases, but it was not. So we started doing some research on getting a biohazard team out there to remove the smell and take care of it for us, but I guess we were too cheap. The prices were really expensive, like a few $1,000s, and we're trying to figure out how we can take care of this ourselves. We did, need to know where to store the deceased items. So we did contact the precinct and ask them, hey, can we get in contact with the deceased family members so that we can figure out where to, where to give their items. But fortunately, we couldn't get in contact with the in direct communication with the officer who was helping us. So in the meantime, we decided, okay, we're just going to store their items in the garage for now, and then we're gonna get in contact with their family members later so they can pick up their items. So y'all, were literally going through their room and looking at everything to pack it up, and we noticed that there's a few things that we find disturbing in the room. Of course, besides the bloody mattress, there's some things that that raise some red flags for us. So we find drugs. We found about, I want to say, like 30 driver's licenses and of random people. So I'm not sure what he was doing, but my guess is, he was scamming in some sort of way. Don't know in what way exactly, but it's not looking. I don't understand why somebody would have 30 different driver's licenses on them if they weren't scamming. He also had a fake lease agreement that he decided to make without me and my boyfriend's consent, which makes me feel like he was probably trying to get tenant rights of some kind, potentially. But no, we didn't agree to start a lease agreement. Um, so yeah, it was a fraudulent lease agreement. But besides that, yeah, there was just normal things outside of that we needed to pack up and move to the garage. So we spent, a good day sorting through everything, packing it up, trying to organize it to go to the garage. So while we're packing everything up, I'm noticing a fluid that's running down the walls and on the furniture, like the cabinets and everything. And when I go to the bathroom is the only kind of area that has white, like a white paint on the door. And so I'm looking at the door, and the door is kind of running some yellow fluid, down it. And at this point, I'm like, okay, this means something. So I do some research, I just Google it, and yeah, apparently everything seeping from the walls, furniture, was his bodily fluids because, the deceased was sitting there for a week. So after that, I started to notice that my skin, because, we were wearing like short sleeves, my skin started to feel kind of sticky. And knowing that the bodily fluids were in the air and on, surfaces, I started to get really uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, I got to get out of here at this point. So we finish up packing everything, of his and put it in the garage. And I'm so ready to get out of there. And I'm like, look, I can't go back in there after that. This job is, the cleanup job is just so much more than I anticipated. I was ignorant on how to, get rid of the smell and everything like that. So I had no idea the severity of the situation. So yeah, I won't be doing that again or trying that again. But the drive home, um, I decided to smell my arm because that was the only smell that I could smell because we were wearing the masks. And oh my God, y'all, yeah. Yeah, the smell stuck to my skin. So when I tell you to never try to clean up after that, after someone uh, passes away in your property, never try to clean that up because, yeah, what you might not consider and what I didn't consider is the bodily fluids that are in the air and also on surfaces all over the property, and they can get on you if you're in the property. So even with the mask, um, I don't do it. So yeah, that's what I pretty much learned from the situation. That was what I learned is, what a body can really do to the home. You really got to hire a biohazard team. That is what you should do, and to not try to clean it up yourself. And I also didn't understand that not only do the bodily fluids kind of penetrate the surfaces, but also underneath the surfaces. So they can even get into the carpet, like the wood beneath the property, like beneath the walls and everything. So they can really penetrate the surfaces of the entire home. And so it is a lot worse than I thought and a lot more serious than I thought. So, the lessons learned if this happens to you is, of course, you call the police first. And, after that, you try to get in touch with the family as soon as you can. And you then, pack up the belongings potentially and get a biohazard team out there and do not try to clean this up yourself um, because it's not worth it. And yeah, it's almost, I can even say dangerous to clean it up yourself. I mean, this is Airbnb host's biggest fear. And so if I can get past it, then I mean, it's not the end of the world. So just don't be afraid of what could happen. I'm trying to reduce anxiety for aspiring Airbnb hosts or even current Airbnb hosts because I know that you think this is the worst thing that could potentially happen. And it is. So, but, there's life after this. So I would say, I'm trying to decrease anxiety. I might have made it worse, but that's what I'm trying to do because there's protocols for every single thing that can go wrong, including even someone passing away in your property. There's even protocols that you should follow for that. And we didn't take the right steps, but we learned for the future. Hopefully, this will never happen again to us, but we learned what we should do in the future, at least. What you guys really need is short-term rental insurance. Now, do I know if short-term rental insurance covers biohazard cleanup? I don't know. I haven't looked into it yet. However, they do cover, standard property issues, like, major property issues, the property itself, such as like foundation, plumbing, electrical, and all of that, but also cosmetic damages that are caused by the guests. So I need y'all to get short-term rental insurance, not just for this, because they might not even cover biohazard cleanups, but in general, if y'all are gonna do short-term rentals, I need you to get short-term rental insurance. If you try to use Airbnb, Verbo, damage protection insurance, guess what, y'all? There's gonna be a day where they deny your claim, even when you have evidence. And I'm telling you this, it's a fact, because some hosts will say, "Oh, they've never denied my claims." Well, have you hosted thousands of guests? Thousands? Because you probably haven't. If you have never been denied a claim before, they will deny a claim eventually. I don't care what their promises are. It doesn't matter if you have evidence. So I need y'all to get short-term rental insurance to cover you, when there is damage to your property and something happens. Maybe not like this, but something in general happens. And I'm really hoping that big names out there, so just, proper insurance, I hope that they do offer some kind of biohazard cleanup coverage. Let's hope. But yeah, y'all, get your insurance, please. Watch this video on how to determine the most profitable cities for your Airbnb. And I'll also discuss how to determine whether or not there's short-term rental regulations in the city. Watch this video on how to start an Airbnb business step by step.